Gar mil magad the lescin corla agus go generalta coram falche rev an mille seo in anon go bhfuil se beag an ingénach I gadar snach lenne tíre eile fud ní Europa a correctiocht tríd na dála éagsúla atá acu I bhád reve seo. Ach is rud practicúil den cuide smó atá sa bille de réir mar ecam ach ní rá góhan agam fós gol tríd na sunraí. Ach an rud a chuirn súntas An rud is súntasach go bhfuil aspa trácht de údras na Gaeltachta. Cean de na heagrachtaí is tábhachtaí sa tír ó híomh na Gaeltachta de agus ó híomh na Gaelga de agus beidir go dtiuchí mé reis go dtí sin. Minister, I welcome the digest. I welcome this bill and I want to thank the Library Service indeed for all their work and for updating us. And in fact, they point out that some areas that were included originally are not. So perhaps that can be further explained by yourself today, different sections that are not included now. But I want to pay tribute to them for their work. I also think that any discussion on Brexit and on this omnibus piece of legislation has to be premised on how cofiche fucha is atá síl na nini sa tír seo agus síl na nini sa bhreatain. Tá the common travel area is there almost 100 years, and I'm glad that's been dealt with and put on a statutory footing for the first time. But that shows you how interconnected both countries. And if I have any criticism of the government, and I have many, but one in particular, that from day one we should have shown solidarity with England, regardless of our opinions on Brexit, given how interconnected the two countries are. In 2001, there was 869,000 and almost 1 million Irish-born people in England. That has reduced significantly, but we still have over 600,000 Irish-born people living in England. 1 in 10 have a grandfather or a grandmother who was Irish. Not to mention all of the other descendants from Ireland. Ireland picked up our people on the streets when this country had massive immigration in the 50s and the 60s and before that, including my own family. And when people were ejected from mother and baby homes at 16 with little else on their backs but their clothes, England picked up our pieces and dealt with our shame. So I think from day one, regardless, as I said, of our opinion on Brexit or on the Brexiteers, who I have no respect for, I think we should have prefaced all our conversation and our negotiation on our interconnectedness. And indeed, we can never accept the return of a border under any agreement. I was in the óráid le déanamh agam le déanaí de híine seo caití chun den Winnicán, maidir le conran na Gaeilge, agus hui me sús I mo glúisteán rud neamhgannach de hamán me sús. Agus is tócha gur chresní mé an Jordan a laid 3 nó 4 úra, agus ní ráí gceist ach 3 úra go le mar thoras. And I understand there's 110 million border crossings annually. It's difficult to get our head around that. 300 of those on a daily basis are just by bus alone. And last week, as I said, on Thursday, I crossed it 2 or 3 times. Maybe the third point wasn't necessary, maybe I went a little astray, but it shows you the interconnectedness between Northern Ireland and us and between us and England. Now, I looked at the bill in as much as I could, and I have to say do not know the details of it. I have read it, but not as much as I'd like to, and I look forward to the committee stage. In relation to it, the various sections deal with practical matters, which are very welcome, Minister, in relation to social welfare, in relation to students, in relation to healthcare, and so on. The area that jumps out at me, and it jumped out at me when we got our first presentation from the Taoiseach as chairs of the committees, and I was there as chair mar chahirirlach an Cois de Gaeilge, was part 3 the Industrial Development Acts set out on page 17. Now, while I absolutely acknowledge that help has to be given to struggling businesses and companies, I am worried about the open nature of this. For instance, research and development has come up repeatedly in terms of corporation tax on the Public Accounts Committee, and it has been mentioned already, I think, by Deputy Coppinger in relation to the absence of criteria and the open nature of it. Now, perhaps this will be sorted out at committee stage, but research and development is the one of the areas which allows the larger companies to escape, I would use the word, to escape from paying their just tax. And we're now actually broadening out that category in relation to this without setting out criteria. Will Chivray Just tá sé Jackar Lennon the Ryan or a Tardini Gomalishgan. Yeah. Tabby Confonacht in our ear because tá sé cód tábhacht tá Kerkalor. I think the Industrial Development Act section has to be looked at. In relation to that, the glaring absence of údarás na Gaeltachta Taoiseach and tá fáilte rótas ja sa Dáil agus isínta go bhfuil tú an because tá an táhar har a bheith tábhachtach. Údarás na Gaeltachta doesn't feature anywhere in this piece of draft legislation. Now, I have made inquiries and I have asked questions, and in fairness, Sean Kine and Tara hánig sé a rashugam agus dúirtilum nach bhfuil éon cóis nach bhfuil éon cúis búra I gceist, that there's no need to worry that údarás na Gaeltachta is covered under this section, but I don't see it. And what has come back to me is that údarás just yesterday issued a detailed press statement, but it's a press statement, and they referred to extra analysis carried out by them. And in fairness, they did start 2 years ago where they made money available for people to get advice to deal with the complexity of what was facing them in Brexit. But we've moved forward, and they've done another piece of research, and they've told us that there are over 1,100 companies or entities on their books, and 25 of them they have identified as particularly vulnerable. Amongst other companies, 25 are particularly vulnerable. And then they refer to a memo of agreement between Enterprise Ireland and údarás na Gaeltachta. Now, lately we found out that there was absolutely no memo of agreement or nothing in relation to the IDA and údarás, which was a huge shock to us. But we learned that there is at least a memo of agreement with Enterprise Ireland. I don't know what it says on that memo. It didn't arise in the context of Brexit, so I don't know what's necessary. I'm getting broad assurances, which I'd love to take, but I'd much prefer to see on what legislative basis that údarás by Gomai tilla cuachta agus tilla aquani ag údarás na Gaeltachta, that they will have extra resources to deal with what's facing them in relation to their client companies. And despite the press roaches, despite the press release and despite the update, I don't see anything here that reassures me. So perhaps at committee stage that can be teased out a lot more. Finally, I welcome the decision in relation to the revenue and the VAT particularly in the context of Brexit, because it would have been just absolutely amajuk Landach the Rai leis an méadú sin module VAT. So I welcome that decision. I know it's a postponement until November, I think the 1st of November. But I welcome it, and I welcome the fact that whatever influence you've had with the revenue, I know they're completely independent, but the fact that you've done that is welcome. It's a response to the outrage on the ground, and it gives the government now a chance, in the context of Brexit, to look at a policy, because revenue only implement the policy, and to actually change the policy and look at the operational issues on the ground, which is what led to the 23% imposition of VAT, which was going to go ahead. It was simply to do with operational issues, and it was a blanket, punitive decision, I would think, in this, so I welcome that, and I welcome further discussion of this at the committee stage.